Hello everyone. A total solar eclipse is occurring on the 20th of April this year, followed by the lunar eclipse on the 5th and 6th of May. Big changes, big shifting energies are happening. How will they impact the world and yourself? All the details are on this video. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to sub below. And if the video is good for you, give it a thumbs up. Let's begin. Now, the total solar eclipse this time has a very contained visibility. It is visible in the Australia and Pacific region, as you can see on this map. It doesn't mean it isn't going to affect you wherever else you are in the world, but this is the actual visibility. Now, the lunar eclipse, 5th and 6th of May, has a much more wide-ranging visibility, but it is actually astronomically quite unusual because it is a penumbral eclipse where the moon passes deep into the Earth's outer shadow. A lot of visibility, though, not in the Americas. It is visible in Australia again, Pacific, Russia, China, India, Saudi Arabia, Africa, Europe, most of it, but not Norway nor the United Kingdom. If you are in these regions, though, try to avoid viewing either solar or lunar eclipse. It's generally not auspicious to do so. That's my advice to you, of course, but you must make your own decision. Let's look at the general meaning of eclipses, first of all, everybody, so that what I'm going to say later in the video actually makes sense to you. Solar eclipse happens this time, 20th of April. Any solar eclipse is a darkening of the sun. Eclipsing the sun means that our understanding, our vision, represented by the sun, is obscured. This means that up to 2 weeks before 20th of April, because solar eclipse always has a shadow influencing 2 weeks before, something happens that makes us feel a bit fearful, a bit phobic, a bit afraid, unsure of what is actually going on. Information can be withheld. Things become obscured and uncertain due to these events. Which is why it is very advisable not to begin things around a solar eclipse in the 2 weeks preceding or near to the 20th of April. In fact, any time near this whole cycle, but especially around solar eclipse. You do not have all the information. Things are not what they seem. But by the following lunar eclipse, this time on the 5th and 6th of May, all of that changes. All of a sudden, you know what's going on. The information is available. People are speaking openly, emotionally. There's a lot of catharsis going on, hidden emotions coming out. It can be emotionally actually very startling, very trying, and it's very difficult for relationships, by the way, lunar eclipse. But at least you can start to plan for the future. At least you know where you stand. Let's look at the astrology, everybody. The solar eclipse on the 20th of April is happening in the sign of Aries, of course, where Rahu has been transiting for some time. The sun and the moon are combust, eclipsed, therefore, at 5 degrees of Aries. But they are not alone because Mercury is there as well, and he is just about to turn retrograde. It's taking place in the nakshatra of Ashwini, ruled by Ketu. So if you have a planet in your chart in Ashwini, you will be very affected by this solar eclipse. But for everyone, this is the third eclipse cycle since Rahu has been in Aries last year. It's pushing everybody's life forward in a specific direction according to your sign. So please check out the video on my channel, Rahu Aries K2 Libra. The link is below in the description box, and then you will understand more about the context of these eclipses. This eclipse particularly is not without its own drama because Jupiter is in a Gandanta perilous position, crossing from water sign Pisces into Aries at the moment of this eclipse, although he is actually astrologically involved in this eclipse, he is not in the same sign as the eclipse. It's quite an interesting situation. It just makes everything all the more unstable. At the same time, Mercury in this eclipse is standing still in the sky, just about to go retrograde. More to the point, the dispositor of the whole eclipse is Mars, and he is 3 signs away, showing arguments, agitation, verbal disagreements, and even more than that, he has a very special relationship with this stationary Mercury. What's happening is that Mercury is in the sign of Mars in Aries, and Mars is in the sign of Mercury in Gemini. They're exchanging signs. Is this a good thing? Paravartanan can be helpful, but not when it's Mars and Mercury in this instant. Why? Well, it's like two dire enemies have entered into each other's home. Mars is spying on Mercury and Mercury is spying on Mars. There's an unease about the situation. That's the thing. There is still a blessing in any Paravartanan. This is it. In these 2 weeks up to the 20th of April, people become very reactive because of these really conflicting energies here. Jupiter not able to fully give any benefic factor, and Mercury and Mars having this exchange between each other. People are becoming egotistical and very opinionated. Arguments, disputes, and a general sense of unease are there. If you do not react to it, if you stay aloof from it though, you will get understanding. Mercury, Mars will, if you listen, give you information that you need, but don't react to it just yet. Because on every solar eclipse, there will always be something slightly hidden, slightly not quite right about this information. So keep yourself calm. Don't argue with anybody and watch yourself definitely if you're traveling. Why? 2 reasons. Because first of all, Ketu is a dispositor of this eclipse from Ashwini. He's in the sign of Libra, which is an air sign, one thing. The other thing is he actually rules aeroplanes. Second thing is Mercury, ruling all travel, is at a complete standstill, completely stationary at the moment of this eclipse. So many shifting energies, Ketu involved, Mercury retrograde, Jupiter Gandanta. Travel can be very, very difficult around these few weeks. Take care. There could even be accidents sometimes. Avoid impulsivity if you are traveling, certainly. Now, the sun and moon, the sun exalted, of course, being eclipsed in this way is not good for government. Government is the sun, so plans have to be changed. There is some change of rulership in some places, some underhand situation going on whereby governments are not showing their hand, showing their true intention. When Jupiter is in a Gandanta, it is not helpful to government affairs or to rulers of any sort. Is this because Jupiter is Guru? He gives advice. Specifically, he has always been seen to give advice to the king, the sun. But when he is in this perilous crossing, sun is eclipsed in his exaltation, something is not right. Wrong advice, blind action without thinking, all of these things are a big possibility. And this applies not just on political stage, but in your own life. This means anybody in any position of authority, including perhaps yourself, will be forced into a corner to take a precipitous decision with perhaps bad or unstable advice. So be aware of this tendency. However, amid all this drama, let's not forget that Shani in Aquarius continues to have his third drishti consistently onto Rahu as he transits through Aries and therefore onto this eclipse itself. And Saturn represents democracy, common man, putting enormous pressure at this time onto government, onto leaders, onto anybody who's in a power position whatsoever to change. And it is seeming to definitely work at this time. Leaders, governments are giving in absolutely to popular demand. And one ruler who's going to be in the limelight definitely over these eclipse cycles is King Charles III in England, in London. This is really interesting. Did you know that this sign Aries actually rules London itself? Because Aries represents forted city and London is a forted city, traditionally containing also the palace of the king. And these eclipses since last year affecting London itself have definitely had dramatic impact. Death of one monarch and now about to have coronation of her son. And certainly Charles III responding to this Saturn aspect, planning to cut down power of the monarchy considerably, making all sorts of accommodations that the Queen herself, his mother, would never ever have even dreamt of making. I have just put a video up on my channel, Charles III, Monarchy in Crisis, because these eclipses dramatically impact his chart. I will put that link below as well. And of course, Jupiter represents extreme weather situations. He's in a Gandanta crossing in the run-up to the eclipse and during the eclipse. There could be risk of flooding, risk from fire, and even in your own life, be careful dealing with these two elements, water and fire, just to be on the safe side. However, by the lunar eclipse on the 5th of May, it's all changed because Guru has moved well into Aries, out of the Gandanta now, and Mercury is firmly retrograde. In fact, he is sandwiched between Rahu and the Sun. And retrograde Mercury is still in Parivartanan with Mars, meaning that the real revelations are going to come on the 5th and 6th of May. Why? Because the dispositor of the lunar eclipse is Venus, and Venus is now in a conjunction with Mars. Talk about emotions riding high is to underestimate what's going on around this lunar eclipse date. It's a highly sexualized time as well in intimate relationships with this Mars-Venus conjunction in Gemini. New attractions also coming into some people's lives. But even though lunar eclipse normally reveals so much to us after the darkening of the solar eclipse, this time revelations are definitely there, but because Guru, who is dispositor of this Vishaka lunar eclipse is in Vishaka Nakshatra, is with Rahu, there can still be deception. Things are not quite what they seem still. So it's a highly volatile and slightly deceptive moment. Be really careful, especially in business concerns, Mercury, relationship concerns, stock market, financial concerns. Take enormous caution. Definitely hold fire if you are in business affairs, property dealing, Mars and Mercury Parivartanan here. It may seem to be a very lucrative opportunity, but it is not what it seems. Wait until middle of May minimum when Mercury goes direct to make any business or financial important moves. How to use the readings for best effect, everybody. Certainly, you must have Vedic horoscope, not Western tropical chart. Read from your moon sign if you like, but especially read from ascendant. Why ascendant so specially? Because ascendant is your direction, and solar lunar eclipse switch about direction in life. If you do not have Vedic horoscope, check the very bottom of my description box. There is a website there which you can put in your birth data and find your moon sign and your ascendant sign. Let's begin. For Aries ascendant, hold fire when the eclipse happens in your ascending sign. It's very important. Do not take quick or sudden action, though you'll be very tempted to. Your Lord Mars is involved, as I've just explained, in a Parivartanan with Mercury in this eclipse cycle. This means you are becoming confused about your direction. You're having endless quarrels, misinterpreted conversations, difficult decisions to make, and you're feeling completely stuck. You're coming out in a very fighting mood during this time, but fighting is not going to help you. It's time to take a deep breath if you are Aries ascendant. With the eclipse on your ascendant and Mars in this difficult Parivartanan here, be careful for accidents. Don't rush doing anything. Watch your health during this time. Lunar eclipse highlights the 7th house for Aries. Most definitely relationships become super emotional, super sensitive, whether it's a long-term relationship, spousal relationship, or new relationships. Something is happening now that brings long unsaid factors out into the open. Mars, your Lord, Venus, 7th Lord, are conjunct in the 3rd house of your chart. New sexual attractions may even occur for some Aries during this powerful lunar eclipse, but you are aware of the impact of other people on yourself very, very strongly, and you're not quite sure what to do. Best thing, write this out very, very slowly. Don't make emotional commitments during this lunar eclipse. Business people, self-employed people, markets are volatile, changing overnight, and you are very upset by it, wanting to make changes. It's not the good time to start up new business, definitely. It's not the good time to make any changes to your business routine. Ride this one out for the best result. For Taurian ascendants, this eclipse happening in the 12th house of your chart, something that you don't want to talk about, that you've been leaving behind, that you've been trying to put out of your mind, is coming into your consciousness in a very difficult way. It's the time to make a decision to say goodbye to the past, and Taurus, you find this difficult. And of course, it's because Mars has gone 3 houses away into your 2nd house. So this eclipse is impacting your finances, the future of your finances. You've got to make important decisions because expenses have got out of control, and this is the moment of truth. Your health is being impacted by your fears and your difficulties, which you are not sharing with anyone. You're just keeping them all bottled up inside of you. Insomnia, sleepless nights, worries, it's all coming to a head. But the lunar eclipse is probably going to help you, even though it's going to be a bit emotional. Conversations with your family, Venus, Mars, Venus, your Lord, Mars, 7th house Lord conjunct in this 2nd house are crucial. You make the big financial decision, even though it is very, very difficult. Some stressful confrontations with other people happening where you don't feel you are being understood at this lunar eclipse. Do not lose your temper. You may be very much tempted to. Why? Mars is with your Lord Venus in the 2nd house. Watch your speech. Watch what you're saying. You might be taken at face value, even though you don't mean it, speaking to spouse, romantic partner, and indeed with your family. Be very careful what you say. It's completely impulsive and you can't seem to help yourself. Don't forget, Moon is your co-lord with Venus, and Moon has been eclipsed. If you have pets, small animals, there may be some difficulties with them during this eclipse cycle, and you come to a decision about pets. It is difficult to make everything right for them, for yourself. It's a difficult situation, definitely a very emotional one. And something about your workplace situation is stressing you so much. Changes have to be made, but you've been avoiding making them, talking about them. It all comes out into the open at the lunar eclipse. For Gemini ascendants, if you're not already spinning with Mars in your sign, you're about to be set like a spinning top, Gemini, when the solar eclipse approaches on the 20th of April. Up until that date, you are trying to make a decision. But what about all the offers, about all the opportunities, about all the doors opening before you? When Rahu, the Moon, Mercury and the Sun get into this eclipse on the 20th of April, you realize you can't do any of them. Perhaps none of them are suitable for you. You finally decide that you need to do something completely different with your life. And many of you also need to speak to an elder sibling with whom you've not been on maybe speaking terms or had some misunderstandings. It all comes to the fore at this solar eclipse and during the lunar eclipse cycle as well. It applies to your friends and your network circles. Some friendships are completely breaking up now, completely moving on from your life, and you're finding it upsetting, but you know that they were not meant to be with you for long anyway, mostly. And most of all, this is about source of income. Some source of income is completely drying up. Let it go. There are so many new opportunities coming up very soon. Information from your work colleagues may be misleading, and if you have interviews, they may also be misleading what they are telling you about the job. Don't push forward if you feel in any way unsure during this solar eclipse. The lunar eclipse in your 5th house affects 3 things, education, children, and romantic relationships. Let's start with the romance, because Venus, the lord of your 12th house and secrecy, is with Mars in your sign. There could be new romantic attractions coming up for many Geminis during this period. Same time, Venus and Mars conjunct, both being rulers of this eclipse, opposed to spouse. There can be difficulty, challenging emotional confrontations with spouse, partner, relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever it is. It's emotional and it's difficult, but as always, you will ride it out. Just don't get into too many arguments. It's just not worth it. If you are a student, if you are in education, it's a very seminal moment for you, this lunar eclipse in your 5th house. You just decided you can't do the course, or some element of it is just not good for you. Because Mercury is involved retrograde, your Lord, it's very important that you give this more time. Don't just quit the course on this lunar eclipse, even if you are tempted to do so. Mercury, your Lord, needs to go direct. Give it at least until the middle of May to make any decisions about your education. Same things if you have children or any difficulty with conceiving, pregnancy. Wait until Mercury goes direct again, because advice which you are now getting is not all that it seems. There's a lot of cloudiness about children, about education, about romance now. It's very tantalizing to just make a precipitous move. Don't do so until the lunar eclipse dissipates. For Cancer ascendants, a change in your status, a change in your job situation. It's a wipeout, but it's a new beginning as well. Something you've been planning to do career-wise, work-wise, in your job is just not going to happen now. You finally realize you've got to do it differently, but take some time with your forward planning. That's the thing, because Mercury is just about to go retrograde, and he doesn't help things when he's retrograde in the 10th house of the chart. You may get some secret information though, because of the Parivartanan I've spoken about beginning of the video, with Mars in the secretive 12th house of your chart. Behind the scenes information comes to you from your job area. Once again, keep it to yourself. Don't act on it, and try to relax. You could have many sleepless nights during this eclipse cycle. And the lunar eclipse brings all the tension into your 4th house of home. Difficulties with your mother, maybe. Difficulties definitely happening in the domestic sphere, with spouse, or with anybody who you live with. It is just not harmonious. Changes to your domestic life which you wanted to make are just, once again, not going to happen at this time in the way you would like to. You must have patience here, because you need both Venus and Mars to move forward into your 1st house to help you make important changes. Now the Venus and Mars are in your 12th house. Venus, Lord of this eclipse, you are too volatile, too sensitive to make the big changes you need to make. Some of you may think of even moving abroad or making big dramatic changes. Don't do them just yet. Wait until this lunar eclipse dissipates. Listen to what I said at the beginning of the video. Things are not all they seem at this deceptive time. For Leo ascendants, this is a very difficult solar eclipse, one of the most difficult for ages. Why? Because the sun is always eclipsed, your Lord, in any solar eclipse. But this time, in this exalted state, Aries, you are being brought down from some position. You are being brought down from some hope, from some ambition, and particularly affects students. So something which you've been afraid of is now right in front of you, and it's not looking good. You are fearing for your future even during this eclipse. Do not be too dramatic about it. What you are leaving behind was never meant for you. 9th house is about Dharma and the truth more than anything. Sun in Aries is about absolute clarity. So there is not clarity going round at the moment. There may be difficulties with your father, with your teachers, with authority figures if you are students, and you are just in a big mess, not knowing what to do next. During this solar eclipse, even if you take advice, it may not be helpful. Stand still and don't make any great moves during this time. It's hard to keep yourself to yourself though during the lunar eclipse. Everybody wants to speak to you. Everybody's got something to say to you. This eclipse in your 3rd house is important. You finally get conversations with so many people around you. Younger siblings, neighbors, colleagues, work colleagues, subordinates, the boss, everybody. The big conversation happens and you have to make the big decision around this lunar eclipse. And this affects, as I say, students' education especially. Be cautious if you are traveling abroad, locally, anytime during this lunar or previous solar eclipse. It could be difficult. It could be that you lose things. Ketu moon here could show loss of personal belongings, etc. Moon is your 12th house, foreign lands as well. So it's not a good time for travel. And foreign travel particularly can be difficult because of the moon ruling, of course, your 12th house. Another thing, be very careful about going for new job interviews now or anything that seems too good to be true with this Venus-Mars conjunction in your 11th house. It probably is. It's better to wait until the deceptive energies of these eclipses dissipate to do all forward planning. For Virgo ascendants, this 8th and 2nd house axis is now being activated once again by these eclipse cycles. Solar eclipse in the 8th house, wills, legacies, inheritance, savings, business dealings, even dealing with your partner's finances, spouse's finances, comes to a crescendo, a complete crisis. Something is not working financially, it needs to be completely changed. You may have health crisis as well with some chronic problem which is now blowing up again and you're still not sure what to do about it. Wait until lunar eclipse gives you clearer information, that's for sure. But don't fear, because when the moon comes into the opposition to this eclipse at the lunar eclipse on the 5th and 6th of May, you get the help you need. Why? Because Jupiter, Lord of your 7th house, Lord of your 4th house, has come into this sign of Aries. Your whole financial stability is shifting and it can make you feel a little bit insecure, but nonetheless, you're going to make the changes that you need to make to your investments, your savings, that will be very good for the future. And listen to advice from your family as well. They've got more to say than you want to listen to. They can be helpful to you during this time. It's going to affect your job situation because both Venus and Mars, dispositors of these two sides of this lunar eclipse, are together in your 10th house. Some of you leave a job, make a big decision about job situation that is irreversible now. Once again, take good advice and don't just jump into things without that. If you are studying occult subjects, by the way, having Guru with the Sun, Mercury, Rahu now in your 8th house and the opening up of understanding by Ketu in the 2nd house, you will make progress in study. Students who are researching, doing anything in depth again, benefit by the illuminating findings you get during this lunar eclipse. Jupiter rules your 7th house of consultations, a new consultant, a new medical intervention. This is all about medical intervention. 8th house helps all Virgos now with long-standing health concerns. For ascendants, once again, these eclipse cycles are rocking your world and turning everything in the opposite direction to what you would like them to go as Ketu continues in the 1st house. All of your plans are upturned because partners having problems, maybe health concerns, maybe there are domestic holdups. All sorts of situations are not turning out the way you planned them to do. You've got to have patience during this time. Again, there's not much space for you doing your own thing or making plans for your future. Your whole direction feels unstable because of so many unpredictable changes happening in just virtually so many areas. If you have children, they are having problems definitely because Rahu is a part of this eclipse, of course, ruler of your 5th house. And your health problems are becoming quite acute as well during this solar eclipse. The reason for that is that Jupiter is actually crossing Gandanta into your 7th house at the moment of this eclipse. So be careful with your eating, be careful with your diet. Everything is just not working out correctly, but very soon the lunar eclipse puts everything into a completely different perspective. Why is this? Well, first of all, Jupiter is finally in Aries, aspecting your ascendant. Your health will gradually improve from new advice, new consultations opening to you at this lunar eclipse. Students in particular find this lunar eclipse a make or break situation. Mercury is now retrograde in the 7th house. He's a lord of your house of higher education. Any students on any course whatsoever come to a standstill during this lunar eclipse. You are just feeling like changing everything overnight and just not understanding this course at all. It's come to a crisis point. But if students wait until Mercury goes direct with this influence of Jupiter on Mercury in this sign of Aries, you will get the correct advice. Oddly enough, although many people won't be in your educational situation. After that, you can make educational plans much more smoothly. And after middle of May, business people make very sound, very good decisions, especially if you are in a business partnership, and you feel happier, you feel more understood by your spouse as this lunar eclipse dissipates. So it's very emotional. It's a little bit cathartic as you finally speak your mind, definitely during this lunar eclipse, 5th, 6th of May. But everybody around you in your world, not just spouse, close friends, children, educators, everybody are listening to you at this lunar eclipse. And this is a good thing. You feel finally understood. Scorpio ascendant Rahu continues his transformation of your life in the 6th house of your chart, and yet another eclipse happens here. Although Rahu is helping you here when so many planets are here, the sun and the moon eclipsed with Mercury in this sign, obstacles come up, difficulties come up that you have to deal with almost immediately, happening in the 2 weeks prior to this eclipse on the 20th of April. Certainly unexpected health issues may be coming up now, or a long-term issue develops unexpected factors. Complications in ongoing legal affairs for some Scorpios, and workplace becomes very involved. Complications with your colleagues, misunderstandings, and all sorts of communication difficulties in the workplace definitely can be occurring. And if you have small animals, pets, they can also be having unexpected difficulties that you have to deal with. Because your co-lord Mars, or one of your rulers Mars and Ketu rule your sign, is in the 8th house of your chart now. Watch out for unspoken enmity, as I say, but also watch out for secret information coming out that really unnerves you work-wise and even health-wise. Some of you don't take anything on face value. Mercury, Mars are having this Parivartana exchange, but all is not what it seems. Remember what I said beginning of the video? Things will not be revealed in their totality until lunar eclipse. Having Jupiter out of perilous Gandanta will give you more options health-wise, more than you ever thought possible. In fact, too many options that you may be stuck what to do, but at least you have more information available to you. Complications involving small animals, pets also benefit by this Jupiter's presence in your 6th house. There are more options available to you than you had thought previously dealing with complications with these beings. And there are many doors opening in your workplace situation, more job opportunities, more service opportunities, more ways to make a profit than you ever thought. But it's all a little bit too much right now. Don't make decisions about job situation until Mercury goes direct in the middle of May is the definite best advice. It's very emotional lunar eclipse in your relationships. Ketu and the moon are illuminating 12th house of your chart, but Venus, dispositor of this, ruler of your 7th house, is with your Lord Mars. For some of you, it's an almost irresistible sexual attraction coming into your life, maybe even in the workplace, some people. For some of you, it's just that you have been feeling left out in the cold, vulnerable, difficult, and finally you get the conversations you need with the people who mean the most to you. Real understanding and real sympathy, empathy could be possible for many Scorpios now. Don't retreat into yourself though. This lunar eclipse, 12th house, could make you go very secretive, very quiet, very private when you really need to share your emotions at this time. For Sagittarius ascendant, it's been very creative for you. Rahu being in your 5th house, you've been daring, you've been trying out new things, you've been leaving past behind, even leaving friendships behind and old network circles. You're feeling reinvigorated. But these two eclipses, solar lunar eclipse happening now, put you in a bit of a precarious situation for startup. So you need to have extreme caution for all the opportunities that suddenly seem to be surrounding you. This will affect relationships as well. Mercury is your seventh house lord. Caught up in this total solar eclipse, something is changing for your partner, for your spouse, for your business partner, even sometimes close friends. If you have children, they may be having very difficult, trying situations now, and you are stuck not knowing what to do about it. Best thing is not to do anything just yet. Let it ride out, because Mercury's soon-to-be retrograde situation puts everything into a completely different perspective as regards children. Same thing for students. Solar eclipse, fifth house, you suddenly just can't cope with the course, feel like it's all too much, want to just do something different. You've got so many creative ideas, as I say, but once again, wait to get the right information. It's not available right now. You will have more options educationally than you think you have when the lunar eclipse comes along. Quite emotional, cathartic lunar eclipse, because it all highlights everything to do with your friendship network circles. Long-standing friendship, another one may have to come to an end or may have to change completely because of new factors in your life. And it definitely affects earnings in your life. Because both Venus and Mars are now involved in your seventh house, there could be serious business problems coming up at this lunar eclipse. And there is a loss of income, loss of profit, and some disturbing factors affecting wages generally. Once again, ride the storm. It's only temporary. It's good for students because Jupiter is your lord, and your lord is now involved in the fifth house of this lunar eclipse. It's actually having a big influence on the moon. You are powerfully influencing other people. You get good advice about education course. You get good advice about anything creative which you actually want to start up. So just wait until Mercury goes direct so as not to have holdups. But you are full of creative solutions now. Students are, business people are, parents are, even in relationships. Creative solution to relationship difficulties also come to you now. Just wait until Mercury is out of this difficult sandwich situation between Sun and Rahu, and by the middle of May you are definitely moving forward again. For Capricorn ascendants, you're moving and shaking everything in your home life, in your work situation as well. This solar eclipse is a critical moment in the ongoing dissatisfaction with your home situation. If you have not moved, if you have not made a major change to your home situation in the last 6 months, this solar eclipse will precipitate action in which you will probably do that. Mars in your sixth house has been making you super busy lately, getting on with all sorts of complications with your health issue, with your home issue, as I say, with workplace concerns. You've been moving and shaking changes there. You've been the one pushing the agenda. And all of a sudden, at the solar eclipse, there's a big hiccup to your plans. So any workplace change, any home improvement, home move, anything domestically which seems to be held up, though, is a good thing. It's because it was never going to work out in the way you would have liked. So stay patient, Capricorn. Don't forget, it's one of your definitely best qualities. And everything comes to a crescendo of the lunar eclipse, 5th and 6th of May. Difficulties with your partner come out into the open. Moon rules spouse, business partner, etc. And you finally understand each other much better and finally come to some good agreement about domestic changes and definitely about life direction together, because Ketu, 10th house, is pushing you in a very independent way now. You are leaving work of the past behind. You are doing something completely different. You're less concerned about prominence, status, and actually even getting promotion than you are about peace and stability in your home situation. And this lunar eclipse puts all that into a very good perspective. You finally get the help of Jupiter in your 4th house permanently now for 1 year. You can make a better home purchase, better changes, better home move. In fact, working from home suits many of you now as you sort out long-standing home problems. Best of all, Venus coming into your sixth house, although it's not a great place for Venus to be. With Mars, there's more cooperation with your work colleagues, less tension, less aggression. So altogether, you are feeling relieved at this lunar eclipse. Even though it is emotional, relationship-wise, forward motion in your life is definitely coming after this eclipse. Aquarius ascendants are full of motivation, courage to make enormous changes in your life, and you're certainly going to make them at this eclipse cycle. Check out the video on my channel. I will actually link it below for you, called Rahu in Aries, because when you understand what this transit of your Lord is doing, you will see that even though this solar and lunar eclipse will be a little bit upsetting and distracting to you, you are still on course. You are still transforming your life in a very positive way. Please watch your communication during this solar eclipse. That could be even bust up with your spouse, business partner, anybody close to you at all, because you are being a little bit confrontational during this time. You're feeling very restless during the solar eclipse, but unnecessary travel should definitely not be on the cards. This eclipse cycle happening in 3rd, 9th house, foreign travel, local travel, it can all be quickly disruptive. Take care if you are traveling. At the lunar eclipse, it gets too emotional for Aquarians' liking. There can be difficulties with your father, with your advisors. If you are a student, with your teachers, you can be unsure about educational course, what is even expected of you. And all of a sudden, it gets very emotional and a little bit trying for you. Sudden changes happening then in your father relationship, sibling relationship, and educational course. If you are students, are really putting you in a very bad mood indeed. This is why your communication should be watched very, very carefully. Because Venus and Mars are in your 5th house, although it's causing a lot of people agitation, it could be helping you find amazing creative solutions to so many issues. So even though it's not the time to absolutely implement them until Mercury is direct, solutions are there to so many problems. And definitely it's even a romantic time with strong romantic attractions for many Aquarians. But there is just one important note of caution that I need to bring to your attention about Jupiter. Jupiter is lord of your finances, and he's gone into the 3rd house where he's in a Marikasthana position now. This can make you a little bit risky with financial commitments. Just take care that you do not overextend yourself, although on the whole, business situations are good. For Pisces ascendants, what's making you feel secure? All of a sudden, you're not so sure about it anymore. Financial situations have been improving for you, but suddenly something comes up unexpectedly that makes you feel a bit insecure about this. There's so much going on in your family circle, revelations coming, understandings coming that were not there before, that is actually favorable for you, but in some way, it's not helping you. Why? Because this solar eclipse involves Mercury, lord of your 7th house. The one thing you have to avoid now is speaking out of insecurity, being a little bit too Rahu basically in your speech, being a little too confrontational now. You're going to get people's backs up major time at this solar eclipse, especially spouse, business partners, siblings maybe, and even family members. You're just feeling a little bit hemmed in, that's the situation, and definitely watch your diet. This solar eclipse means a change in your diet has to happen. I've probably been saying this for the last few eclipses, but now it's really going to happen because your Lord Jupiter is just on the point of joining this eclipse cycle. Lunar eclipse gives you amazing information in regard to business situations, investments, definitely wills, legacies. You get information which you did not have before, and all family finance has a real shake-up in this lunar eclipse. And because Jupiter, your Lord, is now firmly in this eclipse cycle at this point with Rahu, who is the 12th house lord, you get some very important information now that will help you make a more secure future. You can definitely plan ahead financially after this lunar eclipse, something that you could definitely not do before. Some of you speak to relatives who you've not for a long time, and there is a general feeling of more belonging, more harmony in your family, even as emotional situations develop. And watch your health generally during this whole eclipse cycle, but especially lunar eclipse. Ketu is your co-lord. With the moon eclipse, there can be infections around you, so take some care. Watch your throat area, ruled by second house, teeth especially, second house, and definitely watch all the food that you eat, because Rahu is here. Something could certainly disagree with you. But the 8th house eclipse always means cleaning out things that you just do not need, people that you do not need sometimes, but definitely situations which are not working for you, but you are clinging on to. It comes to a crisis and you simply have to let them go. Check out the important transits, as I say, of Rahu and Ketu in Aries and Libra. It's up on your screen right now, as well as Jupiter's fantastic transit into Aries. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to sub below. Goodbye for now. God bless everyone.